My name is Lin Feng. I was originally an ordinary worker. I didn't expect that when I woke up, I actually traveled through time. When I opened my eyes, I realized that I was lying in a broken thatched hut with a moldy quilt on my body. It was covered with mud walls and the roof was still leaking. I was so simple that I couldn't bear it anymore. There is a lot of memories in my brain that are not my own. It turns out that I am a low-level villager who is bullied by the rich. I pay taxes every day and can't even eat them. Lin Feng, you're not going to come out to have fun. If you can't finish Narita's work today, don't want to eat. A rough scream came from outside the house, which made me angry. In my memory, the owner of this sound is the little manager in the village where I live. He is responsible for urging us villagers to work hard, and punch and kick them a little slowly. He is simply not a human being. I gritted my teeth, got up, put on my torn linen clothes, pushed open the squeaky wooden door and walked out. Outside was a broken small village, with pits on the dirt roads, and several skinny villagers were lying in the fields with their heads down, with no vitality on their faces. The little manager was standing by the field with his waist on his back, staring at me impatiently. "What are you looking at? I'll beat you to death." He spat, snatching the broken whip in his hand and trying to beat him. I lowered my head and said nothing, but there was a fire burning in my heart. What do you have to suffer this kind of atmosphere as soon as I travel through time? After all, I am a modern person, how could I be bullied by these local buns? I clenched my fists and swore secretly that one day I would turn over and let these low-eyed guys kneel on the ground beg me. But in fact, I can't even eat, so where can I resist? I can only work hard under my skin. As the sun was scorching, sweat dripped into the soil, and the palms were worn out by the rough slapped head, and the pain was so strong that it blew. Several villagers beside him muttered in a low voice, "I heard that Lord Carlos is coming to the village to patrol today. We have to be careful not to make him feel unhappy." Carlos? I was stunned, and my memory appeared in my brain. This guy is the leader of the noble tribe in our territory. He is so arrogant that he often bullies the villagers with his power. He beats people if he is not satisfied. People in the village are so scared that they tremble when they mention it. Just as I was thinking, the sound of horse hooves suddenly came from afar, and a dust of soil was raised. Several riders wearing Hualien armor walked over with a young man. The man had short golden hair, a disdainful sneer on his face, and a long carved sword hanging beside him, looking full of energy. As soon as he arrived at the entrance of the village, the villagers stood up and knelt together, and they didn't dare to breathe. "Everything is up. I'm just passing by today. Let's see if you guys are secretly snatching." Carlos turned over and got down, his voice full of contempt. His eyes swept over the crowd and finally fell on me. A corner of his mouth squirted, showing a mocking smile. "Yeah, isn't this Lin Feng? I heard that you have been stealing recently and you can't finish your work in the fields. Why are you so naughty and want to be beaten?" My heart sank and I held the head of my hand tightly. This guy clearly shows that he is here to find fault. He remembers that he has not used me too much. He humiliates me every time, making me unable to lift my head in front of the villagers. But I have nothing now. Resistance is just seeking death. I can only grit my teeth and endure it, and say in a low voice, my smirk, I have been working hard to live. Try hard? Ha ha ha. Carlos suddenly burst into laughter, and several riders next to him laughed. He walked up to me step by step and patted my shoulder with his hand. The force was so heavy that I almost stood firm. "Just like your waist, I deserve to say hard work. I am in a good mood today and give you a chance." I kneeled down and kicked me 3 heads. "Maybe I can earn you a piece of hard bread, so what?" The villagers around all lowered their heads and dared not say a word, but I could feel that their gaze was filled with sympathy and helplessness. My heart felt like I was cut by a knife, and I was so frustrated that I was about to explode. Knocking the head? What to complain about? I am a time traveler, how can I kneel down to such garbage? But if you don't kneel down, you probably will have to be beaten today, and you will not even be able to save your life. Just as I was hesitating, a sudden ding sound in my brain, as if something was touched. A cold mechanical sound echoed in my ears. Congratulations to the host, the system was successfully activated. The qualifying skills and the creation skills have been unblocked. Do you check the skills details immediately? I was stunned. System? Isn't this the labeled gold finger of the protagonist in the novel? Can you tell me I have a slot, too? I was ecstatic in my heart, but on the surface I was still doing nothing, lowered my head and didn't sing, and responded with my thoughts, view. The next second, a transparent light curtain appeared in front of me, only I could see it. Right above. Correction skills. You can view the detailed properties and weaknesses of any item or creature, with a 100 accuracy. My eyes lit up. These two skills are so simple. It is sure that I can see through everything, and creation can directly create what I want. Isn't this the capital that turns over? I felt excited in my heart. I raised my head and glanced at Carlos, and a big thought suddenly appeared in my brain. Since there was an outsider, why don't you try to counterattack this guy? Why don't you kneel? You're so ungrateful. Carlos didn't move when he saw me. His face darkened, and his hand was pressed on the handle of the waist, and he was ready to pull out the sword to teach me at any time. I took a deep breath, put on a look of fear, and said in a daze, "Sir, don't be angry, I'll kneel. As I said, I slowly lowered my waist, but my eyes stared at the exquisite long sword on his waist, silently saying, "Calm." In an instant, a string of data appeared on the light curtain. Item, Carlos's sword. Quality, excellent. Attribute, attack power plus 15, durability 70/100. Weakness, there are slight cracks in the middle of the sword body, which are prone to breaking if it is strongly impacted. I was delighted, but I didn't expect that this drama looked awesome and actually had internal flaws. This weakness is simply a chance to give it to me. The brain was moving at a rapid speed. I pretended to knock my head. At the moment of my lower head, I picked up a small pointed stone in the field from the side and hid it in the palm of my hand. At the same time, I silently said, "Create skills." Based on this stone, I created a small projector for me to accurately hit the target. Ding! The creation skill starts, consumes 10 points of mental power, material, ordinary stone, generated items, easy stone caster, attack power plus 5, precision plus 20. As the mechanical sound fell, the stone in my palm instantly changed, forming a small device the size of a palm, which looked like a mini version of a crossbow machine, light but full of power. I secretly laughed in my heart. Although this thing is simple, it is useful. When I raised my head, I deliberately put on a look of silly and said, "Sir, I'll knock my head." Before I finished speaking, the stone caster in my hand had already met the middle of the Carlospez sword, and I suddenly pressed the machine to turn off. Swoosh! With a light sound, the little stone flew out at an astonishing speed, reaching the middle of the sword. I only heard the two papa sounds crisp, and the cracks hidden on the sword's body instantly expanded. The whole sword broke into 2 pieces from the middle, and fell to the ground and made a crisp sound. The whole scene was dead silent. Carlos stood there in a daze, looking at the slam on the ground, his face turned from shock to blue, and then to red, as if he was slapped by someone. The riders beside him were also stunned, and the villagers even widened their eyes. No one could believe the scene in front of them. "You! What did you do like a genius?" Carlos finally returned to his god and roared at me, as if he had a terror. I felt a little relieved, but on the surface I was still innocent. I quickly stepped back a few steps and said in a panic, "Sir, I didn't do anything. I just hit the stone by knocking my head. Maybe your sword is not good." As soon as this happened, several riders around couldn't hold it in, and burst into laughter. Carlos's face was twisted so much that he turned his head and glared at the riders fiercely, roaring, "What a laugh! I will shut my mouth." Then he pointed at me and said, gritting his teeth, and said, "Lin Feng, do you dare to humiliate me? Believe it or not, I will kill you now." I felt nervous and knew that this guy was really killing me, but I was still angry and said deliberately, "Sir, you can't say anything wrong. I am a villager, how could you humiliate you? Everyone is watching. Your sword has been cut off and you can't beat me up. As mentioned, although the villagers did not dare to say anything, they clearly showed some joy in their eyes. Carlos's chest was so angry that his chest was undulating, but he couldn't find a reason to do it directly. After so many people were watching, it was indeed his own problem. He glared at me fiercely and gritted his teeth and said, "Okay, very good. Lin Feng, I have remembered you, let's take a look." After saying that, he swung his hand and turned away with the riders. He didn't even get rid of the sword, and it seemed that he had no face to stay. I looked at his back and felt so happy. This is the power of external penetration. The first time you use it, you will make this precious clan jump into your feet. It's so simple that it's not too satisfying. But I was not happy for too long. The little manager next to me suddenly came over and said in a low voice, "Lin Feng, are you crazy? You dare to mess with Lord Carlos, you don't want to live? When he comes back, you'll wait to be killed." I curled my lips and ignored him, and started to count. Although today's face pasting was great, it also offended Carlos in the end. I guess I can't stay in this village anymore. I am fond of these two skills, why bother to get angry in this broken place? It's better to take advantage of the opportunity to leave and go to a larger world. Just as I was thinking, a memory suddenly appeared in the brain saying this view on the mainland. There is a transliterated map of the world, and hearing that the fragments of the collective map can gain the power to govern the mainland. As I flashed through this memory, I felt like a fire was ignited in my heart. To govern the mainland? Isn't this the ultimate goal of me like a time traveler? If I could find that map, what would I be afraid of Carlos? I want these precious tribes to kneel under my feet. Decided to leave this village and came quickly than I expected. After humiliation Carlos in front of everyone, stayed here that had basically signed my own death guarantee. That high thorn was going to let me leave the simple, I could have imagined him drawing some evil revenge. Plus, in this memory of that legendary world map burned in my head, I knew I couldn't waste time here decline. If I could collect those map fragments and gain that power to the rules this mainland, not even Carlos would dare to mess up an eye again. Packaging up was once simple. I didn't have a lot of it, just a broken bag, a raffle I was found in this cottage, and a few pieces of dry bread I'd saved up. Before dawn, although this village was still asleep, I slipped out through this backfield. This cool morning air hit my face, and for this first time since I got to this bad world, I heard a spark freely. Not more growth, not more got kicked on the convention. From now on, I'm in charge of my own destiny. I head toward this recent town, a place called Greystone, about a day's walk away. The word used to be, it's a trade center where adventurers and traders gathered. If there's any information in this map fragment, that's where the place begins. As I trek along this trail, my head retains the race car and possibilities. What kind of power does this map catch? Is it magic? A hidden treasure? Or some kind of ancient weapons? Any it is, I'm going to get it. Afternoon, this path leads me to a small cleanup close to a stream. I figured out I'd take a quick rest to replenish my water pouch and grab a bite. Just as I crouched down and passed the water down, I heard a rustling sound behind me. My hands instinctively went to this radiant knife at my waist. Where is the World Health Organization? I called going out, trying to get the sound stronger than I hurry. A number went out from this shrubby girl, probably about my age, and short brown hair and exhausted wind. She had a wooden staff member in her hands, tilted in a faintly glowing blue crystal. Her sharp eyes scanned me up and down before she smirked. Relax, I'm not here to sweep you. You see you've got nothing worth stealing anyway. I knows, loosen my tight grip in this knife. Funny. And what do you want? I'm not in a sentiment for a small talk. She tilted in her staff's casualties. Name's a little fire. I'm a wandering wizard, just by passing. Sharpen you sneaky about like you about running here. Get a story to tell, or is it you just badly hidden? I sway. Can I believe her? She didn't seem to be enemy, but in this world you never know. Still, something about her atmosphere is hot, really. Or maybe it used to be the way she didn't look down on what I liked everybody else. I'm Lin Feng. Yes, I'm got out the hiding. Making some big shots of an enemy high, and I ain't waited about to get my head chopped off. The little fire grew up with eyebrows, and looked at the funny one. A high price, huh? You've got the price for a sknay guy. What did you do, steal his lunch? I smiled despite me. No, just destroying his one to play all his possessions in the front. The guy used to be angry. She burst out and laughed. This sound echoed through this cleanup. No way. That's gold. I like your style, Lin Feng. Tell you what, sticking an eye for a bit. I know this area likes. / this back my hand, and I can use someone in your kind of nerves. I've got a scheming for magic. Can come in convenience if that expensive sending fools after you. I thought it was more than a second. Traveling alone had been adventure, especially with 0 fight skills and just a sling to my name. There was a wizard about possible saving my skin. Trade. But the university instructor expected me to bring you something or anything. Wilt dream it, she comes back in a wink. And just like that, I have my first allies in this messed up world. As we continue to go to Greystone, the little fire filled me in some basics about this vast land. Turning out, it's a messy tiny kingdom and territory, all fighting beyond the land and resources. Magic and monsters are there, and adventurers love her to make a living slinger or take strange jobs. When I casually brings up this world map, she expresses movement, likes I'd play another. You've heard it? I pressed, keeping my verbal pleasure freely. She stumbled slowly, spinning her staff. Yes. It's a legend here. They say this map was once split into pieces before the long fragments of the past by some ancient wizards to keep it the power from falling into this wrong hand. Each piece is hidden in the spots of danger, the cursed ruins, the monsters, your name. People have died just tried to find one. Why, you plan to follow that fairy story? I smirk, not giving too much left. Or maybe. Listen to like a good way to make a name for me. Get any cut? Before she could answer, a rough voice interrupted us from this path. If it's this map you're about after, lad, you're about any brave or bloody stupid. Probably both. We turned about to see an old man leaning against a tree, his face half hidden under a shattered hood. His clothes were torn, and he carried a rough walk poke that looked more like a weapon than a crutch. His eyes, despite the sharpened holes, like that he could see correctly through me. World Health Organization about you, old-timer? I asked, stepping into the front of the small fire in instinct. He smiled, a dry, raspy sounded. Call me Goo. Just a wanderer. World Hygiene Organization saw a lot of this cursed world. I heard you YAPP about this map. I thought I'd warn. Yes, it ain't a game. Those pieces are guarding things you can't imagine. But... He paused, his eyes I liked he used to be swelling me upward. If you've got this volume, I probably know where to find this first piece. My heart beat a beat. A really lead, just like that? I glanced at the little fire. The World Sanitation Organization looked suspicious but didn't stop. Okay, I'm listening. Where is it? The old good tip down a forked path leads into a dense, dark forest. Through there, in the heart of the Braxthorn tree forest. There's an old shrine, abandoned for several centuries. To say there's this first segment seal inside. But beware, that forest ain't kinds to fools. Wilderness and worse travel there. And if you make it to the shrine, this segment's get a magic seal in it. Wrest it wrong, and you're about dead. The little fire crossed her weapons, brows. Brickthorn tree forest? That place is a death trap. I've heard the adventurer going out in and never going out. Of course you about this, Lin Feng? I didn't have the hesitation. Of course. I didn't have the village to play it safe. If this map could give me this power to turn things around, I'm get that segment. Are you or go out? She sniffed and laughed. Good. Someone's going to keep you from getting eaten. I'm in. The old goose spot head, almost like that he got formally recognized. Okay. I'd 2 labels follow this forest edge, watching you in this right direction. After that, you're about in your own. Oh, and a last thing, watch your back. The word travels quickly, and not everyone wants that map in your hand. His warning stuck in as we let go out toward the brookthorn tree forest. This approach we get, this darkness this sky seems to get, even though it was only the past midday. The tree was imminently open, their rough branches twisted together like skeleton hands. A crawled chill ran down my spine, but I moved it away. Not turning back now. The old goat paused to the edge of this forest, his face was grim. This is as far as I go. Follow this path until you look at a stone mark and 3 scratches in it. Turn left there, and you'd look for the shrine. The university teacher trusts your eyes there, brickthorn playback skills in this brain. Good air, boy. You'd need it. And then, he turned and shook away, leaving me in the little fire gazing into this ominous forest. Excellently, not stressed, I murmured, gripping my scalp tighter. Little fire pushed me in her staff. Come in, hero. Let's get this far in before I changed my head. This forest was once worse than I imagined. This air was once thick in the rottenness of this sound, and every step tightened in dead leaves or snatching twigs. The strange noises of replies about us, roaring, ears, things I could place. I used my rating skills near a plant just to test it, and this data pops up, item, venom vine. Toxicity, high. Contact cause numbness. Viagra. Even this plant here passes through me and dies. We'd arrived over a walk for, or maybe an hour when the little fire suddenly grabbed my arm and pulled me in the back of a tree. Suddenly. Listen, she hissed. I tightened my ears. Steps. Heavy one, and not just one by one. The sound, also, low and rough. Before he got too far. Carlos said that's good time. My blood ran cold. Carlos. The sun's heat had sent people after me. I'd viewed the trees and spots of them 5 troopers, dressed out in leather armor and snares and cross. One of them, a burly gang and a scar through his face, had been clearly the leader. He barked orders, pointing in our direction. Spread out. If he's closed. The low fire was cursed below her breath. We can't outrun them. To fight or we're about toast. Get any tips up your sleeves? I laughed, pumping the epinephrine. Oh, I've got a lot. Stay back and watch the show. My brain used to be a racing car. I didn't have weapons to match them, but I have something better, my skills. I scanned this area in ratings to see for anything useful. My eyes landed around a roaming slick rocks and some tricky vines. Perfect. Review. I murmured, focusing on this vine. Item, venom vine. Weakness, crispy when to fuck. Effect, meat in contact. Then this rock. Item, fragrance fragment. Durability, high. Potential, can be in shape and enter the edge of the sturdy. A plain click to enter the place. Create skills, enable settings. I focus on difficult, picture a trap in my head. Combine venom vine and flower rock fragments into a sensual longhorn trap. Make it pressure triggered, hidden under the leaves. A stinging horn ran through my head as the vitality of my spirit, but a second later, this material in the front of me. This horn tangled together with the squid stone horn, forming a deadly wall that mixed perfect in this forest ground. Items creation, magnolia long thorn trap. Impact, fixed target for 30 seconds in contact. Durability, 10/10. I smirked, wiped sweat off my front. Get ready to run if this didn't have a job, I whispered to the low fire. The World Health Organization just gazed in this trap in wide eyes. Hey, over here, you terrible bastard. I shouted, stepping in and out just enough for them to get me to the point where I flew back. The troopers roared and took the lead, their heavy boots hit the ground again. Scarface laughed and raised his sword. Gotcha now, hunch. They didn't have it to see it in the future. The first two went right to the trap. Amazed people squeezed out as this shot upwards, punching their boots and injecting venom from this vine. They screamed, collapsed to the ground, and their bodies twitched as numbness were placed in. These other 3 jugs, confusing, gave me just enough time to scream, "Now, little fire." She didn't need to be told twice. A bolt's blue vibrant shot from her staff, slammed into the other merc and sent him flying into a tree in a loud thunk. I grabbed a nearby branch, used the creation to turn it into a crude spear. Item creation, roughwood spear. Attack, +8. Without thinking, I threw it on this recent guy, catching him on the shoulder. He called, descending his crossbow. Scarface was once this last common, and he looked at the vigor. "You little rat. I'd got you." He stabbed in me, sneering. I dodged through a hair, heart beat again, but I'd had evaluated his weapon mid-fight. Item, iron broadsword. Weakness, insidious balance, slow slam recovery. I hide under his neck's craftsman, grabbing a small amount of dirt and fling it into his eyes. He stumbled, cursed, give the fire a field to zap him and other magic bolts. He hit the ground hard, go out cold. This forest went to peaceful again, and the province for this groaning of this storm of mercy. I gasped, hands on my knees, but a huge laugh spread through my face. "Sanctuary, we have done it. That trap was a bad egg." Little Fire slammed her head and half smiled. "You're about crazy, you know that?" "But yes, not bad for a newbie. Where'd you even learn to make things like that?" "I'm so proud, playing it with a cool feeling. Just a little talent. Let's keep moving more displays upward." We didn't poke about the morning to the romance. After a while, we set up the stone marker of the old gu mentioned and turned to the left. Soon, the tree split into revealing a scattered stone shrine, covered in moss and strange carvings. A head humming magic buzzing in the air, making my skin crawling. At this shrine in the center sits a seat, and in it, a shining piece of sheepskin paper slug in a strange light. "That's if it was it," I murmured, stepping closer. This first segment. The fire grabbed my arm, her face harshly. "Wait. That light, it's a seal, just like this old man said." I could feel this vitality. "It's not just a lock, it's a trap. An error move, and we're about frying." I could try to wrest it, but I'd take time. I clicked, glanced at the neighborhood. The forest was once and peaceful now, and almost loved that it had been keeping it was breathing. "Do it quickly. I've got a bad feeling we're about not going out here alone." As the little fire began to speak, her staff glowed brighter, a low roar rumbled from behind the shrine. My stomach fell out. Anyone who had been in the future, it was human. And it sounded big. Xiaoya's spell became more and more rapid, and the crystal at the top of the staff in her hand emitted a dazzling blue light, as if she was fighting fiercely against the shrine fragments that were glowing in the center of the shrine. I stood aside, holding my palms in my hands and sweated, my eyes daring to leave the shadows around me. The low roar was getting closer, as if some giant beast was approaching, and the air was filled with a sense of pressure that made people grow hair. "Hurry, Xiaoya, we don't have much time." I urged in a low voice, and silently said, "Calm." My eyes swept to the environment around the shrine, wanting to see what can be used to meet the danger that is about to come. The light curtain quickly popped out in front of my eyes, showing a bunch of data: item, broken stone column, durability, low, potential use, can be used as a temporary barrier or weapon. Item, rotten vines, toxicity, medium, weakness, flammable. My eyes lit up and my brain quickly began to count. Create skills, start. I bit my teeth and concentrated my mental power very much. I stared at the pile of rotten vines and the gravel beside me. Combining the vines and stones, creating a poisonous burrow trap for me, and I can catch the target after touching it. A round of heads came, and my mental power was pulled away a lot, but the next second, the vines and gravel twisted and changed in front of my eyes, and quickly formed into a rough but threatening rope, hidden in the grass at the entrance of the shrine. Item creation, Toxic Skull Trap, Effect, Skull and Poison Target, lasting for 15 seconds, durability, 8/10. Do it. I wiped my sweat and shouted, Xiaoya, you are dedicated to breaking the seal and handing it to me outside. As soon as the voice fell, the roar suddenly became terrifying. A huge black wolf beast appeared from the shadow of the forest, his eyes were filled with angry light, and his mouth was dripping with fishy saliva, and he rushed towards us. Calculate. I locked this guy in the first time, and the data instantly appeared. Bio, Blackthorn Wolf, Level, Intermediate Magic, Attribute, Strength plus 30, Speed plus 25, Weakness, Fragile, Rear Legs, Resistance to heavy strikes and movement. What a guy, it's time. I curled my lips, and the horse stepped back towards the trap, deliberately shouting, come on, bite me, stupid dog. The black thorny wolf was irritated, roared, kicked his limbs and rushed towards me. Just as its front paw fell to the ground, with a pop, the toxic snail trap was touching, and the cable instantly slammed its front legs, and the pointed stone pierced into the flesh, and the green venom rolled into the wound. It screamed and wanted to slap, but the toxicity began to take effect, and the body movements became more and more slow. It's now! I lifted up an old stone pillar next to me and quickly strengthened it into a rough stone stick with the creation skills. Item creation, fossil rod with attack power plus 10, durability, 6/10. I swung the stone stick and smashed it hard on the hind leg joint. Bang! With a slight roar, the wolf crow wailed in pain, and his hind leg softened and he fell to the ground. Beautiful dry. Xiaoya continued to crack the seal and took the time to yell, if you want to hold on for another time, the seal will be broken. I sniffed, gasping for a heavy breath, and was ready to give the wolf another shot, but at this moment, a rapid horsehoof sound suddenly came from the forest, accompanied by a familiar and pissing voice, Lin Feng. I am here to send you on the way, you should feel blessed. My heart sank and I turned my head and saw Carlos's face that was worthy of beating appeared in the forest. He rode a tall war horse, wearing a new armor, holding a longer sword in his hand that was even more beautiful than before, and followed more than a dozen fully equipped knights, rushing towards the shrine. Why is this guy still not dissipating? I gritted my teeth and turned rapidly. Although the Blackthorn Crazy Wolf was recreated by me, she did not lose her fighting power at all. Carlos is crowded, and Xiaoya and I are not in good condition now. Lin Feng, there are really people like you. You dare to run into the Blackthorn Forest to seek death. Carlos Yalima stopped outside the shrine, with a sneer on the corner of his mouth, as if he had already eaten me. Take the things in your hand and kneel down and beg for a gift. I may make you die happily. Please? Make a dream. I sneered, my eyes swept over his new weapon, and silently said, calculate. The light curtain quickly showed, item, Carlos's exquisite sword, quality, excellent, attack power plus 25, durability, 95/100, weakness, the design defects of the joint between the handle and the sword, which is easy to fall off when subjected to high-frequency vibration. I was delighted, and I found the weakness. Carlos, don't talk ruthlessly all day long. If you have the ability, come and choose one. I deliberately picked it, and at the same time said to Xiaoya in a low voice, if you add more, it won't be delayed for long. Carlos was angry with me, his face turned blue, and he pointed, give it to me. Remove this guy from the crowd, don't give him a chance to play with it. More than 10 riders stood up and pulled out their weapons and rushed towards me. The sound of his feet made the ground tremble. I took a deep breath and quickly made a plan in my brain. We must first solve these soldiers, and then concentrate our firepower to deal with Carlos. Looking at the rider in front, I quickly swept around and found a pile of scattered sharp stone blocks. The lever to start the creation skill, change these stone blocks into bursting flying stones, explode after touching the ground, causing damage to the damage. The mental power was pulled away again, and my vision was short and blurry, but the next second, the stone block turned into a few black balls with a big fist, sparks on the surface. Item creation, explosive flying stone, attack power plus 15, range, 3 meters, durability, disposable. Bow this. I grabbed a few bursting rocks and threw them at the group of riders with all my strength. As the flying stone fell to the ground, a turn sound exploded in an instant. The fire and gravel were filled with 4 pounds. The few riders in front were blown up and fell to the ground with a cry. The rest of the people stopped in panic. Battle. All the things are given to me. Carlos roared, seeing that his subordinates were blown up, so he turned over and rushed up with his eldest son, Lin Feng. I have to kill you by hand today. Come on, who are you afraid? I gritted my teeth and met. The stone stick in my hand was almost broken, but fortunately, the creation skills were still useful. I quickly grabbed a piece of iron on the ground and silently said, "It is transformed into a high-speed vibrating dagger, which can cause damage to the joints of the handle." Item creation, vibrating dagger, attack power plus 12, effect, high-frequency vibration damage, durability, 5/10. At the moment the dagger was formed, I felt that my mental power was almost drained and my head was bursting, but now it is not the time to retreat. Carlos's long sword slammed and slashed straight towards him with a broken voice. I flashed my body and reluctantly avoided it. At the same time, he used a dagger to hit the connection point of his sword. The dagger's high vibration instantly exerted its effect. With a click sound, Carlos's longsword body actually fell from the handle and broke into 2 pieces and fell to the ground. What? Carlos was stunned, looking at the weapon with only the sword in his hand. His face turned from shock to anger. What are you doing like to be a monk? You ghost, you're the head. I took advantage of his dazed moment and swung the stone stick to hit his chest armor. With a bang, he was hit and took a few steps back, almost falling down. His face was red, and it was obviously a bruised. Sir! A few riders next to him who were not injured were seen by him and hurriedly rushed to protect Carlos, but I no longer planned to give them an opportunity. While they were in trouble, I grabbed the last bursting stone and threw it directly under Carlos's foot. With a shock sound, the explosion of the impact overturned him and several riders to the ground. The armor was blown out with several cracks, and the wolf was so stunning. Lin Feng, wait! I won't let you go. Carlos was helped up by his subordinates, covered in dust, staring at me fiercely, but he obviously didn't dare to force himself anymore. He turned around and shouted at his subordinates, "Retreat! Let's go!" Seeing Carlos running away with a slaughter, I sighed and felt that the strength in my body was drained and almost stood firm. When he turned around, the seal on Xiaoya finally broke, and the shining fragments of sheepskin paper floated in the air, emitting an ancient and powerful breath. It's done! Xiaoya wiped her sweat and shouted excitedly, "Lin Feng, come quickly, this is the first map fragment." I walked over with my fingers. The moment I touched the debris, a warm energy instantly swept into my body, and a blurred silhouette of the large landform flashed in the sea of my brain, like a corner of the whole map. I was shocked. This thing is indeed not simple. It is hard to blame Carlos for trying so hard. This is just the first piece, and I have to continue searching for it later. I held the fragments tightly and grinned, but this battle today is so good. Carlos's guy was so bad that he was so beaten by me that he was so angry that he vomited blood when he returned. Xiaoya rolled her eyes, but couldn't help laughing. You guy is such a crazy guy. However, after eating such a big deal, Carlos will definitely not be able to stop being ruthless. We have to leave this ghost place tightly. I clicked and just prepared to pack up and leave. A low horn sound suddenly came from a distance, like some kind of signal. Around the forest, several strange figures appeared slowly, wearing costumes of different strengths, their eyes locked on the fragments in my hand. It seems that the news is spread faster than I thought, and more troubles have come to the door. The sounds of the horns around the forest are getting closer and closer, and the strange figures are gradually approaching, with greed and murder in their eyes, and the weapons in their hands are flashing cold light under the sun. Lin Feng, it seems that the secret of this fragment can no longer be hidden. Xiaoya stood beside me, her staff glowing slightly. Although her face was tired, her eyes were fixed. These guys are probably spies of various forces, who come to sweep the map. What should I do? I sneered, slapped the terrain around me, and my brain moved quickly. What should I do? Of course I'm fucking them. I'm just packing up Carlos, I'm in my hands. Although I said this, I knew in my heart that the battle had consumed a lot of my mental strength just now, and if I fight hard, I would be very risky. But who gave me some extravagance? As long as the strategy is right, isn't this helping fish to be controlled at will? Check. I quickly slapped the approaching enemy, and the light curtain popped out in front of my eyes, showing their equipment and weaknesses. One of the guys, wearing thick iron armor and holding a huge warrior, was quite frightening, but the data showed: item, heavy warrior, quality, normal, attack power plus 20, weakness, 2 heavy weight, slow speed, easy to be avoided. Bio, iron armored core, attributes, strength plus 28, speed plus 10, weakness, poor related flexibility, high side attack hit rate. As soon as I squirted, wasn't this the target to be sent to the door? Create skills, start. I lifted up several broken branches and scattered stones around my foot, concentrated my mind, and silently said in a low voice, create a light hit net with a spike, which can reduce the speed of target movement. My head stinged, and my mental power was pulled away again, but the next second, the branches and stone walls changed in my hand, forming a thin but sharp net weapon. Item creation, spike snake network, effect, blind and reduce the speed target, last for 10 seconds, attack power plus 8, durability, 1 time. Prepare, Xiaoya, let's start first. I said to Xiaoya in a low voice, then suddenly rushed out of the shrine ruins and threw the sling net at the group of soldiers. The net spread out in the air, with the sharp spikes flashing with the cold light, and heading straight for the iron-armored team. He couldn't react and was directly covered by the net. The spikes pierced into the gap of the armor, causing him to roar, and his movements slowed down in an instant. Just now, move! I shouted. Xiaoya's staff blew, and a blue lightning struck out, hitting the team's chest, making his armor squirt, and his whole body trembled like a squid. Other soldiers saw that the erectile slightest movements were erected, some were urging on weapons, and some were urging to move. Waste, why are you still standing there? Get on, the captain gritted his teeth and shouted, but before he finished speaking, I had already lifted a broken iron stick on the ground and used the creation skill to transform it into a temporary long spear. Item creation, simple iron spear, attack power plus 10, durability, 5/10. A sharp stab at his side. With a puff sound, the iron spear pierced through the gap of the armor. He screamed and fell to the ground directly. Who still wants to try it? I pulled out my spear and stood in front of the group of soldiers covered in blood, with my eyes as cold as a knife. The soldiers around him sallied and looked at each other, and no one dared to step forward again. I feel secretly happy in my heart. This is the charm of the outside. No matter how many people you have, you can still squeeze them. Retreat, Ret. A soldier finally couldn't help but shouted, turned around and ran away with his head. Others also dispersed, and even their captain didn't care. I looked at their wolfish backs and couldn't help laughing. With this ability, can you dare to come and snatch my things? Take a long way. Xiaoya walked to me, patted my shoulder, and said helplessly, you guys are so desperate. But we have to go away. These people are just little ones, and there is probably even greater trouble in the future. She said it was right, it was just the beginning. In the next few months, Xiaoya and I moved all over the country, using my calibration and creation skills to harvest map fragments from various dangerous places. Each piece of fragments is hidden in the extreme environment, some are guarded by ancient magical beasts, some are hidden deep in the curse maze, and even one is in the crater, sealed by lava magic. But these are hard for me. Calculating skills helps me see through all weaknesses. Creating skills allows me to create artifacts that can defeat each battle. Finally, after countless bloody battles and dangers, the last map fragment in my hand was pieced together. At that moment, Xiaoya and I stood in an ancient temple at the northernmost end of the mainland, surrounded by collapsed stone pillars and broken magic runes, and a heart-wrenching power filled the air. The map fragments merged smoothly in the air, emitting dazzling golden light, turning into a complete sheepskin map, which outline the entire wheel of the vast land, and each mountain, river are clearly visible. Lin Feng, this is the world map in the process. I held the map tightly, my heart beats like a drum, and a vast stream of information suddenly surged into my brain. The power of the map began to merge with me, and I could feel an energy flowing in my body, as if the will of the whole mainland was surrendering to me. At that moment, I understood that people who gathered maps would become the masters of the mainland, and everything would crawl under my feet. Ha ha! Finally! I got it! I laughed to the sky, and my laughter returned to the temple, and my grievance and anger were finally released at this moment. From a ruined villager who was bullied by the noble tribe to the king of the mainland who is now holding powerless, this feeling of reversal is simple and not too pleasant. The ridiculous sound did not stop, and a rapid horsehoof sound suddenly came from a distance, breaking the tranquility of the temple. I narrowed my eyes and looked around and saw that Carlos's guy was coming with a large number of people. This time the army around him was larger, with thousands of people, with flags waving in bright armor, which obviously did everything he could tolerate. Lin Feng, you, the genius, are really capable, and you really gather the map. Carlos's face was as dark as if it was about to drip water. He held a giant scattering magic waves in his hand, and his atmosphere was more than twice as strong as before. However, do you think I will let you dominate the mainland? To be a dream. Today, I will step you under my feet with my hands. The map is mine. I smiled coldly, stood on the high platform of the temple, looking down at the troops below, as if looking at a group of slugs. Carlos, you are really dead. I have lost my temper so many times, why aren't you remember? Today, I'll let you kneel back on your knees. Hard-mouthed. Carlos roared and ordered the snatcher, give me a blow. Kill this guy, whoever hits the map and earns a fortune. Thousands of soldiers shouted loudly, rushing towards the temple like a tide, and the ground was trampled to death. I glanced at Xiaoya beside me and said in a low voice, you retreat and give me this battle. I want this helper to know what the next scene is. Xiaoya pointed her head, held the tight staff and stood aside, preparing for support at any time. I closed my eyes and felt the overwhelming power transmitted from the map. Every inch of land and every piece of energy appeared in the brain. I suddenly opened my eyes, raised my hand and sniffed, create skills, limitless activation. With the power of the vast majority, I will create a ruinous place for me. In an instant, the sky changed color, the clouds were densely packed, and the thunder roared in the clouds. The earth began to shake, the land around the temple cracked, and countless huge stone pillars rose from the ground. Each stone pillar was carved with ancient runes, scattering the breath of destroying the sky and the earth. Item creation, the Great Destruction, effect, scope destruction, attack power, infinite, durability, one time, coverage, 10 miles. At this moment, my creative skills were blessed by the power of maps and reached an unprecedented peak. Carlos, take the call. I sneered and pointed, and the ambition of destruction started instantly. The thunder in the sky surged down like a heavy rain, and each lightning struck Carlos's army with precision. The stone pillars on the ground burst out with hot energy waves, storming the soldiers in pieces. The screams came one after another, and Carlos's army had no strength to regain his hand in the face of this destructive power, and most of the time it turned into a turning point was destroyed. How is it possible? Carlos was stunned. The warrior was scared by the thunder. The giant sword in his hand was shocked by the energy wave and flew out. The whole human wolf was like a dog in his family. Nothing is impossible. I walked down the platform step by step. The power of the map made me feel invisible pressure every step, forcing Carlos to retreat. Aren't you very awesome at the time? Didn't you kneel down and knock on your head? Now, it's time for you to kneel down. I raised my hand and pointed, and the energy from the destruction gathered into a huge beam of light, rushing Carlos away. He didn't even have the energy to avoid it, and was swallowed by the light column. His armor instantly turned into dust. The entire person was swept 10 meters and hit the ground heavily, and he lost the energy to get up. Sir! Sir! Only the remaining soldiers rushed over to help him in panic, but when they saw my cold eyes, they were so scared that they knelt down and didn't dare to raise their heads. How? Carlos raised his head reluctantly, his face filled with dust and blood, his voice was trembling, and he was not as proud as the noble clan. Lin Feng, I'm wrong, I will never dare again, please let me go. I snorted coldly, walked up to him, and looked at him from a high place. Let you go? When you humiliated me, you didn't want to let me go. Now you know it's wrong? It's too late. With a swing of my hand, the map power turned into an invisible pressure, which directly pressed him and the remaining soldiers to lie on the ground, unable to move. From today on this land, there is only one master, that is me, Lin Feng. My voice spread across the world, carrying an unquestionable domineering spirit. Who dares to pick me again? There is only one. Next scene. Die. Carlos and his men were trembling, and they couldn't even make any sounds of asking for help. They could only crawl down and surrender. I turned around and looked at Xiaoya, and she smiled comfortably and said lightly, Lin Feng, you did it. You have really become the king of the mainland. I clicked the head and felt mixed feelings in my heart. From a forced villager to now standing in the turmoil, the hardships and humiliation along the way have finally turned into a supreme glory. I raised my head and looked down at the earth beneath my feet. The power of the map allowed me to feel the movement of every inch of land and the awe of every life. Old Gu, you're right, this map is not a game. I whispered myself, like a tribute to the mysterious wanderer, but I won. I won it all in my own way. Since that day, my name has been spread throughout the mainland and has become an immortal saying. Carlos was wiped out of his pride and was imprisoned for his ranks, while those who had looked down on me came to worship and pray for my forgiveness. I established my throne in the land of the temple, ruled this vast land, and no one dared to challenge my authority again. Xiaoya, what are your plans next? I sat on the throne, looked at the only companion beside me, and grinned. The mainland is mine, why don't you stay here too? Let's create a new era together. Xiaoya rolled her eyes, but couldn't hide a smile on her lips. Come on, I don't treat any kind of expensive family. However, it's not impossible to help you manage this mainland well. The premise is that you don't always come. Ha, the deal. I laughed out loud and looked away again. From time to time, I finally stood on the peak, and all the humiliation and difficulties became the past. This vast land, this sky, has belonged to me, Lin Feng. Life is overturned and is overturned,